What is up? Back at David Confused. Thank you so much for being here. It's gonna be a pretty cool video. One of the first things that comes to mind when you think of horror movies is ghosts or spirits or some sort of, dead being that's still around and can walk through walls but still grab you and choke you and do all those crazy things. Yeah, it creeps me out too. But sometimes those ghosts are so well done in movies that you just can't help but love the characters. Today, myself and my two guests are going to be discussing which ghosts we love the most. So get your popcorn and your sody pop and take a seat because it gets a little creepy from here on out. So in one of my last videos, I talked about the movie 13 Ghosts and how when I saw it the first time, I was a lot younger and it really did scare me. And I stand by that. It super scared me back in the day. But after watching it later, I really got to appreciate exactly what the movie was and what it had for the audience. And each of these individual ghosts that were caught actually had a pretty cool story behind them. And one of the ghosts that caught my eye was called the Jackal. Now the Jackal is the ghost that's in a straitjacket and he has a cage over his head that you've seen that looks like it's been ripped open. I love the way the Jackal looked and I love the way he, stalked his prey and everything in the movie. But what I liked about him the most was his backstory. So this movie is so popular that there is websites dedicated to these ghosts and giving you a big backstory and how they became a ghost and why they're so angry. And I found that the Jackal had the best story. So here it is. His name was Ryan Kuhn and he was born in 1887 to a very poor family with just a single mother. From a young age, he became obsessed with beautiful women and murder. And after killing several women during his early adult years, he committed himself into an insane asylum. But back then, they didn't know how to treat such a subject. So they put Ryan in a straitjacket in which that didn't stop him from attacking nurses, especially biting them. After several nurses were attacked, they put him in an even tighter jacket and a cage over his head. They locked him in a dirty, wet basement as it was the only cell he could be in where he wasn't around anyone else. After spending years alone in this cell, he developed a huge hatred towards all of humanity. There was no person or living thing that he was ever able to love. But when one night the asylum caught fire and they were trying to get all of the patients out, Ryan wanted to stay and eventually meet his demise. At that point, Ryan became the dark, sinister ghost we now know as the Jackal. I love the backstory of him, I love the character creation of him, and I just love everything about the character. That's why the Jackal is my favorite ghost. Alright, now that you heard my number one pick, let's kick it to Jess.
Hey guys, it's Jessii Vee, and my cousin Dave asked me to tell you guys what my scariest horror movie ghosts are. As you guys know, I love horror movies, so I definitely have a little list of ghosts that really did scare me. The first one I thought of was the woman in the bath in The Shining. Now, Dave probably can't show a picture of this woman, maybe just her face, because as you guys know, she's in the bath. But this scene scared me so much, especially as a kid. There's nothing scarier than walking into a hotel room and seeing this scary old lady ghost in the bath. So that's probably like my number one. The next one I have to say is the Black Bride in the movie Insidious. We have another old woman theme here going on. But she is the one that constantly appears in the main character's old photos of when he was a kid. And in all of these photos, she's getting closer and closer to the camera and closer to him. And her face is just so unsettling, just seeing her creepy eyes behind the veil over her face. No, thank you. I I know this movie wasn't totally that popular, but the woman in black, I always found her ghost to be so scary, especially the scene where he walks into the room and she's sitting there on a rocking chair. That freaked me out so much. And the whole atmosphere of that movie in general was scary because this house was in the middle of nowhere. So he was like isolated in this house with this creepy ghost. And lastly, I know this is an old movie and not a lot of people find it that scary, but The Sixth Sense, that's like a really hard thing to say, Sixth Sense. I found that little girl ghost to be so terrifying. And this is kind of like a spoiler, so spoiler alert, but she was the one who was poisoned by her mother. And so her face was all sickly, she had like bags under her eyes, and she just like showed up to this little boy and it scared me so much. I had nightmares about her for like 5 years after watching that movie. Anyway, so guys, those are all of my scariest horror movie ghosts, and I'm really interested to see what Dave has to say about his. Thanks guys, bye!
Literally, I love all of those movies that she just put in there. They're some of my favorite movies, especially The Black Bride and Insidious. And now my friend Nathan from my other channel that you may have seen, RekAllTheThings, that we run together with another friend named Kyle. Here's Nathan with his favorite horror movie ghost.
Hey folks, this is Nathan from RekAllTheThings, and Dave has asked me to fill you in on what my favorite cinema ghost is. And me being the sci-fi nerd that I am, I was half tempted to say Obi-Wan Kenobi because, you know, who wouldn't want a father figure that can never leave you? But instead, I decided to go with Johnny Bartlett from 1996's The Frighteners. Now, The Frighteners, if you haven't seen it, stars Michael J. Fox as Frank Bannister, and he's a paranormal investigator. He can actually see ghosts because of a traumatic experience that happened to him some years prior. And to be honest, when you first meet Frank nowadays, it seems a little like, he's more of a sham because he's actually befriended a couple of ghosts that he kind of scams people with. And like, you know, it's funny. There's a bit of levity. It's kind of funny until it's not. And this is before a new ghoul comes into the fold. So Frank Bannister starts seeing people walking around with these numbers on their forehead, but it's in like an ethereal sort of like ghosty sort of way. A way that only he can see it. But they look at him all like, yo man, why are you looking at me? Why are you looking at me so funny? What, I got something on my forehead? I got like a number? Is it telling me the kill count of whoever? Am I gonna die? No, whatever, you're weird. You're weird. But the thing is, these numbers actually kind of mean something to Frank Bannister. And that all goes back to the traumatic experience that he went through in order to get these psychic / paranormal powers of vision? Would that be like paranormal power? Like, is that a... Seeing ghosts a power or a curse? And that's because the traumatic experience that he went through was actually a car accident that killed his wife and flung him from the vehicle. But the thing is, when they found her body, there was a number engraved into her forehead. So everybody thought, for, you know, obvious reasons, that it must have been Frank Bannister who killed his wife, but there was no physical evidence. Now fast forward to the present / the present of 1996, where it's several years later, and he's starting to see these numbers again, and he knows what's going to happen. He knows that these people are marked for death. And that is because, the Grim Reaper has come back. Well, not quite the actual Grim Reaper. It's actually this deranged psycho killer from decades prior named Johnny Bartlett. Now, Johnny Bartlett went on this killing spree, and every one of his victims, he actually carved a number into their forehead. And his whole thing was that he wanted to get bigger than all these other giant serial killers and their kill counts. And Johnny Bartlett has taken on the mantle of the Grim Reaper, and this is actually a ghost that can kill other ghosts. Now, this is a fantastic movie. I highly recommend you watch it. You just kind of got to get past the 1996 level of CGI in a few spots, but to be honest, they don't use it too much, and this movie does a great job of making you laugh, making you scared, and making you think. So that is why, Johnny Bartlett, you are my favorite movie ghost. Ciao!
The Frighteners is such an iconic cult classic movie. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. It should be on everybody's list as a horror movie fan to definitely watch. Well, thank you so much for tuning in and checking out this video. Thank you to Jess and Nathan for being in the video. Go check out the channels. Go to Jessii Vee and go to RekAllTheThings. You want funny, you want creepy, you want hilarious, you want scary. Those are the channels you should check out. What's your favorite horror movie ghost? You should definitely leave it in the comments. Or what's the best horror movie with ghosts you've ever seen? Let me know all of it in the comments or on my Twitter. And thank you so much for stopping by. I'm Dave, still confused, and at least our dogs aren't werewolves, but they might be ghosts, which I don't think is that much better. But at least they're not werewolves.